Hi there, thanks for joining me. So today we're gonna dig into my PC here a little bit. Just install a small upgrade, kind of at the end of some upgrades that I've done to the PC. Mostly what I wanted to do is enter the modern era of gaming, so to speak. Starfield is coming out in 2 weeks. The regular version, I guess you can play early with the special edition in 1 week. I would like to play that. Baldur's Gate 3 also came out, and I wanted to play that as well. I actually have been playing it on this rig. So it was about 4 years ago now that I was forced, more or less, to redo my PC. Something had gone wrong with it, and I needed to put a new one together, and I didn't have much money, so this was done very affordably. You can see I got a power supply. I know this looks like it's not focusing, and I don't know why. I apologize. But I got a 700 watt power supply. I have come to learn that there are grades of power supply by bronze, silver, and gold, apparently. This is none of those, so I think you can basically rate it to about 80% of its stated wattage as like a baseline. So, this one would be, I forget what that is, it's somewhere around like 550 watts, something like that. Which covers this system I'm running here just fine. But originally I got this motherboard. It is the MSI B450M Bazooka version 2. At the time, AMD was just coming out with the Ryzen chips that had built-in graphics, so I got this one. Again, I was just getting really affordable stuff. So this is, what is it, a Ryzen 3 3200G. Alright, so honestly just pretty bare bones, but I just needed a working PC, right? I wasn't gaming or doing anything like that. I just wanted to get stuff done. And what I figured is if I wanted to game, I could add a graphics card to the system. The case was really cheap, so the processor was like $100, motherboard was like $70. This case was literally $30, $31 for this case. It has two fans, an intake and an out. It's not an outtake. Intake and an exhaust. The RAM I did spend $70 on, 16 gigs, 3200 megahertz. This is DDR4, and it's actually for gaming. It's Crucial Ballistics, which I guess is a branding that Crucial does not do anymore. And I got a hard drive, whatever, the new style M2 drives. So anyway, this PC has done me well for about 4 years, but it's not a gaming rig, and I wanted to make it into one. So recently I got this processor here. This is a Ryzen 7 3700X. Now this is not a new state-of-the-art processor, but it's much better than the one that I currently have. 8-core, it's a higher, gigahertz clock speed and things like that. And this, basically, as opposed to getting a newer processor, I think the newer processors are still going to work with this motherboard. It took me a little research, and I was still a little uncertain if I needed to get a processor that was more contemporary with when this motherboard was manufactured, but I don't think that's the case. It's AM4 socket, DDR4 RAM, so as long as I'm using the right RAM, I'm using the right socket CPU, it should be good. They do have the AM5 sockets now. Those aren't going to work. This is an older processor, but it actually performs better in benchmark from what I could tell. than some new processors that cost basically more than it would be to get this used, right? So I got this, it was like $100 basically used, I think. So pretty much 4 years later, spending the same amount on the processor, much better processor. It's really going to be fine, from what I can tell, for Starfield, things like that. This graphics card is a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3600. It's not a Ti. Again, I got this used. Same with the processor. I just am trying to upgrade this machine affordably. It's a really good graphics card. I believe it's 16 gigs of video RAM. Maybe it's 12 gigs of video RAM. I kind of forget. It's one of the two. But it's a lot more than, like, a lot of them now are 8 gigs of video RAM. And it seems like there's some debate about how much video RAM makes a difference. But I figured, you know what? I got this used on eBay for like $250, right? So this is one of the first times that I've really done CPU and GPU upgrades where I didn't upgrade my motherboard, right? And that's one of the kind of little caveats that I made for myself, is I'm like, I don't want to have to tear apart my whole machine and put in a new motherboard and basically make a whole new machine. If I can basically take power supply, the motherboard, the case, and make it work for an upgrade, that's what I'm going to do. So I think this has worked out really well so far. The main issue that I ran into, which I thought was interesting, and so you can see what I'm upgrading today. I haven't even said, I don't think. The cooler. So we've got heatsink and fan. This is the Pure Rock Slim 2 from Be Quiet. And the main reason is because this cooler is a little loud. It's the Wraith Prism, and they're supposed to be pretty good, but it is kind of a stock cooler for these AMD processors. Thermals are good on this. Thermals were not good on this to start with, and it took me a little while to diagnose it. I was trying to play, I got Baldur's Gate, and tried it out, and it was fun, but, you know, I put on a utility that would show me GPU temperature, CPU temperature, and they were getting high. CPU temperature was like getting up to like 85 degrees Celsius and 86 degrees Celsius and stuff, and it's kind of getting up there. And, you know, the fan was working really hard, and I was like, well, what's going on? And you know, I was worried because this case, like I said, it only has an intake and an exhaust fan. I was thinking, well, maybe just with all this stuff crammed in there, maybe it is. Maybe it's too much for this case, right? But it's not. It's fine. This is totally okay. When I was thinking that, though, I got this, and if you can see this funny colored fan here, this is a Noctua fancy fan. It was like, I don't know, $17 for just a regular, 80 millimeter maybe, exhaust fan, case fan, and you know, it's fine. I did not need to get it. I think the main benefits, you know, I was thinking maybe I could just get more airflow through my case, right? Maybe if I just, you know, the exhaust fan's easy to get to. Maybe if I just replace that, I'll be sucking more heat out of the case. Maybe it'll be better. The other fan I had wasn't, there's some specification, PMW or something like that. I don't really know what it stands for, but it's, I believe, just, you know, a protocol for adjusting the RPMs on the fan from the motherboard. And the fan that I had before, I don't think had that. I think you can still, the motherboard can still adjust the voltage or something, but anyway, you know, this is a little bit better in that respect. It is a quiet fan. It does have some like rubberized vibration cushioning. Apparently they're well engineered, I guess. So I am going to have faith in this fan, that it is, one, quiet, and that it is, two, probably long lasting. But for this particular fan, I don't think that case fan was loud. And I don't think I was too worried about the lifespan of it. Although, you know, it's nice to have a what ought to be a long-lasting, reliable fan. Really, it's more this Prism Wraith cooler is loud. And so, and not only that, but the reason the thermals weren't very good. Apparently, it would essentially auto overclock. So as I'm watching the utility on this, the megahertz are going up and down and up and down. And I'm like, I am not intentionally overclocking this. What is going on? So I did a little research, you know, going to the BIOS and stuff like that. And it basically was overclocking it. It was like dynamically overclocking. And I think that was safe, right? Because built into it is, you know, steps, temperatures at which the fan is going to up its RPMs and work harder to cool the chip. And probably if it's getting to a point where thermally it's unsafe, I believe it can turn itself off, things like that. But it was loud and annoying, and I didn't like the temps, and I wasn't intending to overclock. So once I realized that, I went into the BIOS, changed a couple settings, got it to stop automatically overclocking, and it's running at the regular clock speed that the CPU is rated for. And it's much better. The only thing I was thinking is as long as I'm upgrading, I have, what, 2 8 GB sticks in here. And I was like, you know, should I just max this out on RAM? I got this. What I was thinking is, you know, I have 2 sticks of RAM. Let me just find the exact same RAM and put it in it. But of course, it's like, you know, 4-year-old RAM, and you can't get it new again. Yeah, somebody was selling not just 2 sticks, but 4 sticks. A whole, like, 32 gig, is that right? DDR4 3000, I think mine is 3200. So anyway, I want to try upgrading my RAM. And additionally, anyway, that cooler is loud, and we're going to put a quiet cooler in. So I've unclipped the cooler there. Last time I took this particular cooler off. I really shouldn't have had any reason to take this particular cooler off, but I did. I ended up pulling on it and actually just yanking the chip right out of the board. Not really the, you know, optimal way to do this. But this cooler, it sticks. I mean, maybe it's partially because it's new thermal paste, but it sticks really firmly to the chip. So what I'm trying to do is see if I can kind of loosen this. Okay, so I was able to get that off much more gently. I just kind of wiggled it around, and just, you know, applied a little bit of pressure on each side until it kind of popped off. It's still plugged in. Let me unplug it. Probably I should be wearing some gloves. I don't really need thermal paste all over my hands. This is contacting the fins just a little bit. You can hear it, but shouldn't be hurting them. I'm being very gentle. I'm not getting too much paste on anything. Okay, that's really not bad. Okay, there's that. I think it looks pretty good. I can check, make sure I didn't get any like thermal paste on the pins or anything like that. I think I'd gotten. See, there's a little kind of bit of a dark spot there. The pins are fine, but I might just clean it up a little bit. Like, was a tiny bit of there we go, thermal paste just along the edges here, just a little bit, and I just took, you know, a toothbrush with some, you know, clean toothbrush with some alcohol in it, ever so gently, just kind of brushed the edges here. Okay, so that CPU is all cleaned up. I dropped it right in there. This new cooler should clip onto these clips that I put in to install the other cooler, because it was slightly different from what I had on that other 3200G. But we're going to address the RAM now. I think I need to remove the graphics card in order to access that easily. there is a bit of controversy about the new NVIDIA cards. They're quite expensive for the new, like, 40 series, 4000 series, however you want to describe them. I'm not in the market for those anyway. This was a really good deal. Like I said, $250. Basically, it's the equivalent of an Xbox Series X, which is what I was considering getting anyway. You know, $250 for that is a lot cheaper than what, like $500 for a Series X. One thing about RAM is it always goes in a little harder than you would think. So don't be shy about, you know, pushing on it a little bit. So there's a full bank of RAM slots. Interesting, so the fan actually comes like not mounted. Well, this does seem very easy, and this does have some pre-applied thermal paste. It is against my nature to use the pre-applied thermal paste, but you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I can always take this off and reapply some different thermal paste if for some reason I feel like that is a necessary thing. This should be as easy as getting these clips to clip over those, I don't know what you call them, brackets, and this will be attached. And then there are there are wires that actually clip the fan to here. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so a little skip there. I just ran out of space on the camera because I'm long-winded. But so yeah, I've completed the installation of that cooler. The fan basically just clipped on the side there. All the pictures showed that it was to be on the side, same side as the RAM. So it's basically, you know, along with the intake, it's bringing the air in, and then it is pushing it through the fins of the actual heatsink, and then it is being exhausted out the back. And it seems to be, you know, working quite well. The main thing is that it was just a little loud previously. Okay, so this is NZXT cam. I don't know, it was just something that folks said would let you check your thermals and some information about your system. So you can see here, CPU temperature is great, GPU temperature is great. Whenever you make a hardware change, apparently it resets the BIOS, which kind of makes sense because you probably wouldn't want it to not do that, right? So I had to go back in, make sure that it wasn't automatically overclocking it. It's not. It's at 3600 megahertz. That's great. Yeah, the RAM is 32 gigs, like I was expecting. It's that DDR4. The timings, I might be able to adjust this timing. So I have to look into that a little bit. I'm not sure what this is saying about clock speed. It is, I set it in the BIOS to 3000 clock speed, megahertz. So, you know, that should be doing that properly. I can look into it a little bit more, but, you know, a little disappointing that I did get like a slight bump down in clock speed, but not a big deal. I do have more RAM now. I did run this user benchmark here. I don't know how reliable this is as a benchmark, but again, this is just something that I saw you could use to benchmark your stuff. So before, you know, in this computer, like I said, I've been using it for 4 years now, and it's been great for everything I've needed it to do. As a desktop, it was, I think, so they have these kind of comical, you know, UFO, nuclear submarine, aircraft carrier, battleship. These are like your ratings of your performance. So as a desktop machine, I think mine was coming in somewhere around battleship to aircraft carrier, right? It was like a good desktop, but in terms of a gaming machine, it was literally, I think, surfboard, is it? Yeah, surfboard. So like kind of bottom 15%, right? Because I didn't build it as a gaming machine, and as a workstation, I think workstation really just combines the gaming and the desktop into one thing. But as you can see now, it's a nuclear submarine across the board for what that's worth. You know, overall it's performing as expected. You know, the processor demolishes everyday tasks, but you know, it's going to be good for you know, a gaming score of 85.6%, right? So the suitability for 3D gaming is very good, which is what I was looking for. Graphics, an outstanding GPU, right? Can handle everything at very high resolutions, ultra detail levels. Boot drive is really fast. Memory, you know, basically just focuses on the quantity, which is obviously a lot. If you look at some of the, you know, specs here, I think, you know, the processor basically is performing as expected. If I were overclocking it, right, it would be performing like higher, but it's definitely a good good processor. Graphics card is, you know, performing, actually it says below potential. Again, maybe I don't know if that's, if I, you know, was overclocking it more or something like that. That's interesting, I didn't realize that. But anyway, obviously the performance is still very good. You know, this boot drive that I just got is really high quality. My external drives, of course, are performing poorly. I just plugged all this stuff back in, and I didn't even pay very much attention if I was plugging it into USB 3, you know, 0.0 or not. So whatever, that it wasn't very good. The RAM is, you know, is good. In terms of the latency here again, I might need to go back into the BIOS and like adjust some stuff. But as far as I know, you know, it's still performing really well. I did get a slight drop in clock speed, but you know, I'll double check the eBay listing and make sure that like I didn't get scammed on that. But probably I just overlooked it, and I don't. It's just not a big deal. It's, you know, ooh, number big. Like it's not a big deal. Yeah. Anyway, I have a much more better performing gaming PC now. I probably put an extra $400 into this, maybe, all things said and done, which is not a, you know, small amount of money, but it's less than I would have spent on a Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5, and I can play modern games. So I'm actually really pleased with that. And let's see, the main thing is that I just was not pleased with the noise level. So with this new fan and heatsink, this new cooler basically for the CPU specifically, I think that was really where the noise was coming from. Now, I am a sucker for computer RPGs like this, specifically Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age, that kind of thing, right? Okay, so we're just hanging out in camp here. I need to level everybody up and stuff like that. But if you look here, temperatures are great, like 50s right now, Celsius. You know, the GPU was getting up to about 80, right? As I would play this game, for instance. But everything I read is that's fine, and I think it is fine. You know, there's two hefty fans on that GPU that can run to help keep it within an appropriate temperature range. And yeah, you know, the CPU, when it was automatically overclocking it, was getting to temperatures that I wasn't thrilled with. I don't think they were unsafe. But as soon as I stopped automatically overclocking it, my thermals are really good. It was just the noise, and I think this has solved that. So, you know, the parts that I used to do this, I just want to emphasize, are affordable, right? So that new cooler, quiet cooler that I put in, even had, you know, thermal paste on it already, and I went ahead and used that. It's cooling just fine. Even with the stock thermal paste, it's like a $20–25 cooler. Not a big expense. This case is like a $30 case, right? It doesn't have a bunch of lights, it doesn't have a bunch of fans, and granted, I'm not running like super expensive stuff in here either. But it's a highly capable gaming PC for what I'm looking for, and you know, I was able to do it I don't know. I mean, I guess the total cost on this is like over a $700 PC, which is not cheap, but there are graphics cards out there that cost, you know, like twice that much just for the graphics card, right? I think people go a little crazy with this stuff. I don't need to run this at some kind of, you know, resolution that is beyond my eye's physical capability to perceive, at a frame rate that, you know, I don't know what. This is perfect. So yeah, really pleased with this. I just wanted to share this update, this upgrade, this PC upgrade with you guys. I don't know. I don't have anybody else to share this with, so I'm sure this is long, and hope it was, I don't know, maybe relaxing, maybe informative. You know, maybe you guys are also upgrading your PCs to play Starfield or Baldur's Gate 3 or the Cyberpunk expansion or something like that. So maybe you can relate. You know, if you're doing anything like that, you know, you want to share in the comments or something, please feel free. And you know, otherwise I'll catch you guys next time. All right, take care.